property, as long as said recreational vehicle or pop-up camper has a toilet contained within it, and it's connected to the proper utilities and septic or sewer system.
You've heard the explanation on the text amendment. Anyone seek recognition? I wouldn't see it anyway because I don't have a screen for mics. No, I need to get a screen so I can recognize you when you seek recognition. And I can't, even if you did, Fish, I don't know, I can't keep your mic up yet anyway. We'll get it to you. Here we go. Recognize Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, sir. What's the time frame for living in that camper? Is it completion of the home? Is it?
So they have 6 months from the time of their application filing for when they file to build their home. The building commissioner can grant extensions on that.
So 6 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Anyone else seek recognition on the amendment? Without objection, when the board opens, please cast your vote on the amendment. Looks like we're doing it. Has every member voted? Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk.
20 yes, 4 absent.
Having received the necessary majority of the votes cast, amendment is approved. Without objection, recognize Mr. Meade on the next amendment.
Thank you. So the next amendment is a minor zoning text amendment to Article 8, 103.8 and 103.10 drainage plan water quality table and formatting consistency. This is just bringing us into conformance with state law through TDEC, which is handed down by the EPA. This is already standard for in-state engineers. We were audited by TDEC. We do that. We have to have it yearly, and they wanted us to bring this into conformance with the way that their code reads.
You've heard the explanation on the amendment. Anyone seek recognition for questions, comments about the amendment? Seeing none, when the board opens, please cast your vote on the amendment. 13 votes for passage. Has every member voted? Any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk.
20 yes, 4 absent.
Having received the necessary majority of the votes cast, amendment is approved. Thank you.
Thank you all.
That concludes public hearing on zoning amendments. Without objection, public hearing is closed. We're back on the regular calendar. Next order, I'd like to invite John Rose to the front as promised for presentation. Sir, it's good to have you with us again.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. It looks like I have a lot of notes, but I printed it big enough so I don't have to wear my glasses. So Darlene, I'll try to stay to that 2-minute minimum you gave me. But it probably takes 4, so we'll try to get there. This is 1 year and 8 days since I took the position as director of an organization that was originally called Northeast Tennessee Hub. As part of that process and meeting with the board when I took this position was we embarked upon a strategic plan and branding change, and we started that very early. So I'd like to give you the process of what we have done this year, what we are working on. Now, obviously, with limited time, I might not go into detail on a lot of different projects, but if you have a question about a specific project, I'm happy to answer those here or to meet with you if it requires more time. In my first 90 days, starting December 4th of 2023, we met with 100 different people across the region. We met with partners on both sides of the state line. We met with elected officials. We met with every professional economic development organization and tourism organization. We knew for us to be an effective organization, we needed to listen to what the communities in our region needed, what the businesses in our region needed, and develop a strategic plan that reflected those needs and desires. We hired younger associates out of Jackson, Tennessee. I had sat through numerous of Ms. Younger's classes as I developed and got my Tennessee certification. And so they were highly recommended to develop the strategic plan process. And so we began that process after meeting with 100 people in the first 90 days. Over the next weeks and months, we developed a list and had a strategic plan, individual one-on-ones, and 3 roundtables. We met with 120 people from across the region at those meetings. What was exciting about that is we had roundtables in Bristol, Rogersville, and Jonesboro. We had to close the Bristol meeting and the Rogersville meeting because we had no more room as how many people participated in that. So we were very excited. Along with those participants, it included 20 elected officials and professionals from Sullivan County. It included networks, the economic development offices of both Kingsport and Bristol Tennessee Essential Services from Sullivan County, higher education institutions, tourism, airport, chambers of commerce, nonprofit, and commercial real estate is who the majority of the people were. We wanted a strategic plan that reflected a brand and a need to fulfill the commitment of our board to be a regional organization that serves what the communities need and desire. Our purpose is where can we meet a need and support efforts that are beneficial to yours and every community and company in our region. The directives of our strategic plan were developed from these meetings. So when I say the strategic plan is ours, it is ours as a region. 6 topics come out of that strategic plan that they ask us to focus on. Market data research was the first one. What that is software and research to recruit companies or to file grants is expensive. Some software costs as much as $20,000 a year to do research with. And every community can't have every one of them. So our board committed, we spend about $20,000 a year now to do software data research across 4 platforms, free of charge for nonprofits, communities, and companies alike, and developers across the region. The next one was the Tri-Cities Airport Initiative. And we were fortunate that early in that initiative, we were asked and we volunteered to help raise funds to recruit new air service. When we say new air service, that means a new carrier, and that means new or larger destinations. And the next 2 tenets is tourism and talent attraction. And the reason I want to tie those back to the airport. Airport can attract business, and it can help retain business if we can get airfares lower and additional flights to new markets. It allows our local businesses to develop and operate business more cost effective. Also, if we can bring tourists to our region, every night that a single tourist spends in the region is around $150 that they spend in cash. That's hotels, food, car rental. So a family of 4 every night that they spend in our region is around $600. And according to the Northeast Tennessee Tourism Association and census data, for every citizen in Northeast Tennessee benefits around $400 a year in tax savings because of the revenue generated from and through tourism efforts. Additional things that we work on also include site development and real estate development. Traditional economic development groups typically focus on number of jobs and industry. What is often left, if we want to have more jobs and more industry, we need additional retail, restaurants, and commercial businesses. And we also need housing. Currently, Bridge is helping multiple developers across the region, and we're involved in helping develop around 1,000 housing units. That is single-family, duplex, apartments, and townhomes. So we're very privileged to be able to work with multiple developers to do that. We've, growing up in the South, and I've learned to be short because my dad was a Baptist minister and he thought the message should last 60 minutes. So I tried to be shorter than that. But you know, two things we've always heard our entire life: love your neighbor, and a threefold cord is tough to be broken. So when we work together, we can help neighbors in our region. And let's think about it, guys. We have a lot of neighbors in our region that were drastically affected by the flood. The Air Service project helps bring tourists to help those communities, not just Sullivan County, not just Kingsport, Bristol, but it helps our surrounding neighbors recover more effectively and efficiently. I spoke to one of those communities today. They still have a high school displaced, they still have roads closed, and they have businesses that don't even know if they're going to make it through the next tourist season. So I can tell you those types of communities are appreciative for the leadership that this board has shown to support air service that affects every community and every person in the region. The commitment is effective, it is important, and it does not go unnoticed. Because of your leadership, we've had two communities verbally agree to give the same amount as you, and one within $40,000 of you, and we hope that they're going to be making a public vote on that. So thank you for leading the region and getting support for air service. The air service expanded is just one tool of economic development. You also have great tools in your toolbox. You have networks, you have the City of Bristol and Kingsport's Economic Development Departments, you have the Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services Economic Development Department. We have great regional tourist organizations on both sides of the state line, the Northeast Tennessee Tourism Association and Friends of Southwest Virginia. And you have a privately funded organization in Bridge that supports and partners with these groups, and we're proud to be a partner. Each of these groups supported and participated in the strategic plan. In my closing, I would like to say, I made a promise to this board when I was the City of Kingsport Economic Development Director that I would not bring anything that was not deserving of your consideration. I appreciate how effective you were to work with in the past and look forward to working with you in the future. Today, I reemphasize that promise and affirm that the Bridge is a privately funded economic development organization that has a new vision, a new strategic plan, and a refined purpose. A major part of that plan is a result of hundreds of participants across the region that will bring a new carrier, new service, and major destinations for air service for our region. Thank you for your commitment to this project. Thank you for all you've done for us. Merry Christmas, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. I'll open the floor up for questions, comments. Recognize Commissioner Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rose, you said you changed the name from MedHub to Bridge.
Yes.
Correct? But still the same group of people that was in MedHub that's in the Bridge now, correct?
We have the same sponsors financially, if that's what you're referring to, and we have the same elected officials, the same communities. Some of the people were elected, and we have new members of the board that are on there. But yes, that is the group that supported this strategic plan and the new vision and direction of expanding. And we don't just, one of the big reasons for the name change, Mr. Glover, was we don't just work in Northeast Tennessee now. We're working on both sides of the state line, and that has garnered great support. So that was another reason for that name change.
The reason I'm going there is last month when we done that resolution on the airport, we were told that, you know, everything needed to be quiet. We didn't need to comment a lot on it. There was a lot of things that need to be signed, a lot of things that need to be made sure that was done. And I think everyone in this room lived up to that expectation. But at that point in time, I had no idea that Bridge, that NetHub had changed its name to Bridge. I wish you'd been here last month to explain that to us, and I also wish you'd been here last month to do a PowerPoint presentation for us, like you did for Bristol, Virginia. That would have helped us a lot.
I'm sorry, I'm not, the PowerPoint for Bristol, Virginia.
I think you done one at the casino.
That was not for Bristol, Virginia. There was 80 leaders from Tennessee and Virginia. Hundreds of emails went out.
Mhm.
That was open to anybody that got an email, and we even had 30 show up that didn't get the email. So that was a public meeting
Mhm.
with news media and everybody there. So that was not just for Bristol, Virginia.
Well, I mean, that's where I'm going. I mean, I think it would have been appropriate to come in here last month and give us that same presentation that was presented up there, since we were the first ones to vote and fund the request.
I am happy and, to be honest with you, thrilled. I will come as often as you will allow me to present projects that we're working on. I'm happy to do so. And I'm thankful that I got the opportunity this month.
Okay. Like I said, I was completely caught off guard. I did not know the name had changed. It was in the resolution that we were giving money directly to the bridge. That was probably my mistake for not asking at that point in time. And the next question is, it says that you guys are going to be handling the payments to the airport for the services. Is that correct?
The payments do not go to the airport, and that's why any funds given on this project, we are just the holder of those funds. They do not go to cover our overhead or any expenses of the operation of bridge. The airport is not allowed to directly incentivize a carrier because of FAA regulations, and so we actually will be writing the check directly to the airline.
Okay. With tax money that was raised in the county.
With tax money and private funds. There was also going to be private funds announced also. It's not just public funds. That's what's exciting about our organization, is we can work with public and private both, and get something that can happen very quickly and be so effective as this project.
Okay.
Commissioner Akert.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I get to my question, I want to follow up on something that Commissioner Glover said. And Mr. Rosa, I was not here last month, and I apologize. Work took me away. So I do have a couple questions on the resolution, but you kind of said something right there that is a little bit more disturbing about that meeting that happened at the Hard Rock Hotel, that emails went out to everybody. I know for a fact I didn't get an email. But I know for a fact that my phone didn't stop ringing when the consultants were trying to put this net hub together to have meetings for us to try to sway us to make it work. And so that's pretty disappointing, because I get no less than 3 emails a week from the Kingsport Chamber about happenings going on and everything. And so I guess it was a pick and choose on who the emails went to. But that's not an answer. I mean, it is what it is. My biggest question is on the financial aspect of it. And you kind of hit on it, and Commissioner Glover was going there. But the resolution doesn't really say when. It says at passage of this resolution, up to $10,000 a month for a total of $240,000. So how are you all going to ask for the money, and when does it start and when does it end? Because obviously the airline, I mean, you just mentioned that 2 other entities are hoping to vote for it. One of them's going to be close to the amount that we're going to. One of them's going to be 40,000 less. So, are you going to wait until you get all your commitments, or how's the money going to transfer hands? And I don't know if that's a question for you or for Mr. Bailey over here.
I could answer one of them. Is we cannot and will not commit to the airline until we have the funds raised and we have full partnership. As far as the email, I said everyone that was obviously an error. That was everyone that had participated in the strategic plan roundtables and 101s. We made sure that they had one, because we only had a place that only seated about 122 people was all we had, because the conference rooms are not open yet. So we sent one to everyone that participated in the strategic plan. There was no way for us to get a place big enough to have everybody at that time. So in the future, obviously, we hope to have a bigger place, but that was the one that Hard Rock was kind enough to give us for the meeting, so we appreciate it.
Well, we're not, I mean, we do have a new funding mechanism, with the hotel motel tax, and it does bring in, almost, what, 20 times per dollar spent, and everything, so it is, but, and I'm disappointed I wasn't here last month, but that's on me, and and we want to help, but it just seems, it's amazing that, how quiet it was, and apparently the right questions weren't asked on that Thursday night last month. And not to say it wouldn't have changed the vote, but it just, you know, that as you read that resolution, it says up to $10,000, and it doesn't get any dates on the actual time frame of it, and that's disappointing on everything. So.
And if I may refer to the date, the reason the date, in my opinion, is written that way is if the funds don't get raised by January, they would be raising by February, so it would push the start date of that. So that the start date of the air service is in flux. And a big part of that is the airline wants to be able to sell tickets 90 days prior to the first flight. So if we would adjust the contract, once we have the funds raised, then we would adjust the contract date with the airline and when ticket sales could happen. So that was one reason why the date is sort of the way it is.
Commissioner Harrison.
So I'll just explain a little bit more, and I'll answer that question for you, because that was part of what the discussion was last month, is if we're able to get enough support around all the counties and cities and the private entities, and at the tune of $2 million, if we get to that support, then we can talk to the airline, and the airline hopefully will come. There's no guarantee it's going to come. If it comes, then it will hopefully start in May. After it starts in May, they'll decide if they get enough tickets sold, and then at basically our first payment or our first amount of money coming from Sullivan County will happen in the June timeline. So that's to give you the timeline of when that actually happens. So as of now, it's still a hope that they'll come. We make a commitment if they actually are selected, or if they actually select us. And if they do select us, then the service will start in May. And again, the first payment would be in the June timeline. So that's where that money, where the timeline goes for you.
We'll recognize Commissioner Slagle, then Commissioner Akers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Rose, for being here. I'd echo Commissioner Glover. I know Commissioner Akers wasn't here with us last month, but it would have been nice to have some information in advance. Clearly, there was a strategic plan. If there were 100 invites sent out to those who were part of the strategic plan, so I'm sure you had monumental agreement in your presentation. But what are you doing to retain the other airline flights or expand those?
I do not work directly for the airport. We are only working on this project. And right now, the retention of the other airlines is actually pretty strong. The airport presented today at their board meeting, they had the strongest October record for legacy flights. And legacy would be American and Delta had the largest number of carriers. So they have actually added some seats, but that is not what will lower the fares in our region. We need a low-cost carrier to do that. For instance, the average airport in America has more than 30% low-cost or ultra-low-cost seats. Tri right now is only running at 11% low-cost seats, and so that is why it's so important to get this in. Typically, according to our consultant Mead & Hunt and their data, a new carrier would effectively lower the legacy carriers' rates between 7 and 9% in a very short amount of time. And as far as the strategic plan, anytime I'm invited, Mr. Slagle, I will come and present, and happy to do so. And I do thank the commissioners that worked on this, but there was no ill intent on our part. We have had multiple public meetings and about our organization. So, if you have any further questions I can help, happy to answer them.
Yeah. What is the intent of the organization? I heard a lot of pretty steady one-liners there as related to kind of the strategic plan, but are you a tourism organization? Are you an economic development organization? it seems all over the place to me. So what's the approach here?
Well, I wouldn't use the term all over the place. We have 6 defined areas of work. We have market and data research, which we help communities, as we stated earlier, to help with grants and recruit employers and employees and other business. So example of that, we've helped one community do the data and provide data for them to recruit 2 national brands. So that's why that's such an important aspect. And obviously, we've talked about our second tenant, which is the airport. And the project we're talking about tonight is obviously the #1 project that we're working on for the airport. And we feel like, and we have talked with our tourism partners, we are not a tourist organization. If you read the strategic plan and what I said tonight, we are supporting tourism organizations. We have a great relationship with them. We help them with data just like they help us with data. And they have been great partners. And we have, in the same way with talent attraction, working with young professional groups. And then when you say, we look at real estate. So if you really want to break our strategic plan down, it could be broken down into 3 areas: market and data research, tourism, talent attraction, which involves the airport, and site and real estate development. That's our 3 focus areas. So we had 9 or 10 that was recommended by people that participated in the strategic plan, but it was narrowed down due to we only have so many staff to work on them. So those are the 6 that was chosen for us to work on.
Yeah, data's great. It sounds like you guys have invested a lot of your private funds into that data, but data without action is useless. And so it'd be interesting to see what a real firm plan looks like. And I do appreciate you stating that you were not a tourism organization. I think that gives the commission some thought, and I agree with Commissioner Glover. I don't know, or Commissioner Akers rather, I don't know that it changes the vote, but it definitely came to us or was delivered in a way that creates pause, if anything. Thanks, sir.
May I respond?
Sir, I'll recognize Commissioner Akers.
I would, he said would like to have a little more detail. I'd be happy to sit down and go through our full strategic plan with you because it is very detailed and directed by our board of what we're to work on. I'd be happy to do that for any commissioner in the room.
Commissioner Akers.
Thank you. And John, I'm going to try to make the question directed towards you, but in reality, I think it's really not. It's about the resolution. Because you stated that, y'all aren't going to ask for the money until you have something in place. Now, that's what gives me heartburn over the resolution, because the resolution pretty much says it's in force as soon as it is signed into legislation. And so therefore, it's hard for us to micromanage, and it really shouldn't, but, I mean, I don't see why, the way the resolution is written, I don't see how you don't ask for the money. And I understand you're saying it's all on the up and up. I get that, but it's more about, we're all in here trying to help each other out, but when you bring in certain resolutions to spend a certain amount of money, there needs to be a little more, detail-oriented into it. Not when the airline, but there needs to, a start and a finish. Because we're going on, because we know Mr. Rose, we've all worked with Mr. Rose, so we feel like it's going to work out. But the way the resolution is written, I mean, it gives me great heartburn over that, especially when you're doing a public-private partnership, which is very tedious in itself at that point. And so I hope it works out. I've pretty much been born and raised at that airport, fly out a lot, like it, so there is a lot of good stuff, and I hope to see some positive from this and everything.
Commissioner Locke.
Thank you, John. I just got a few questions, that way I'm clear on everything, and maybe the rest of this county commission. For years, this county commission's invested a lot of money towards networks. A lot of the roles and the duties that you said the bridge is gonna be doing is the same roles and tasks that networks do each and every day. So what I'm trying to figure out is, we fund networks, it's a private partnership, which yours is too. So are we going networks and the bridge tackling and hitting the same prospect for an example, economic development? If that's one of your roles, which you said it was, that's you know, networks too. So are we both going after the same prospect? What if a bridge and their private dollars want that prospect in Washington County or wherever? If you're going over state lines now, what if that prospect goes to Virginia, but yet networks, who we fund here, along with Kingsport, I mean, how can we retain that prospect, networks retain that prospect when bridge is going?
One of the benefits that Bridge brings is we can work across the state line, and a lot of local economic development groups can't do that because they are solely funded by Sullivan County dollars. I will say, I'll give you an example. If we get a phone call, we've had phone calls about projects at the airport. Mark Canny and Clay know about them. I got called about a project in Kingsport. Our job is to support. I immediately called Stephen Bauer. That project actually has an excavator sitting on it as we speak. I passed it today twice. So when we say we're in a support role, that's what we mean. We involve them. I've sat down in Clay's office multiple times since we've been here, and that is the value we bring to the table is we know the individual economic developments. If we get a phone call, we contact them. Another example is we had a phone call from a developer from Texas, and it's, you know, I worked in private development for years before I did economic development, and they're like, we're bringing a hotel investor, and we want to see information on 3 different cities. And the value we bring, they don't like letting their name out. But that developer broker called last week and said we are bringing them for site visits, and we immediately we provided them data. We provided traffic counts, and we provided them demographic data for all 3 cities: Bristol, Kingsport, Johnson City. That's what they asked for, is a hotel. They wanted to be on the interstate exit, right? We provided that and immediately sent a text and a phone call to the economic development director to let them know that that they had contacted us, and we try to pass those off as quickly as possible because we're going to work on both sides of the state line, and we're here to help and support, and not to pick favorites.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Carr.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, thanks for coming to speak with us. Excited about what the future holds for your organization. I just one quick question with regards to the new carriers at the airline. What is the total amount that needs to be raised to ensure that they come?
The current obligation we would have to fulfill would be $2 million over 2 years.
Okay.
Over 2 years.
Thank you. That's all I have.
If I may give you some data on that, we were told to expect a $3 to $5 million raise to hit one destination, and the blessing of this opportunity is it's $2 million, but it's 2 major destinations, which gives us more opportunity to bring people in from those destinations as tourists. So it's just a great stat to the value for what this region, this county will get.
So you're kind of getting 2 locations for hopefully cheaper than you thought. You'd get 1.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's good.
Commissioner Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been to a lot of meetings in Nashville with Farm Bureau and CTAS and other organizations, and I've heard a lot of state people talk about, if we wanted to send a project to East Tennessee, Governor Lee just last year, I remember he's trying to get counties and areas involved in like small nuclear reactors for power generation. And I heard him say one time in a meeting that if we wanted to get something in East Tennessee, we don't know who to call. So I see one value of your organization is a point person that someone from Nashville can call and say, hey, John, I'm looking to put something in East Tennessee. Can you direct us to the right place? So is that kind of how you see your role?
We're happy to do that, and I'd follow up with that. Is every community does not have a professional economic development organization or department. Sullivan County is blessed to have the multiple departments they have. There's multiple counties across the region that don't have a professional economic development person or they have one. And, you know, those are the ones that have actually reached out to get more help because they need it. And the larger cities and counties not had to do that. So we can be a facilitator, a point of contact for those that want us to be, but we're not going to force ourselves to be that person. That would be up to the community that wants our help.
Just what I was trying to say to clarify, if they don't know where they want to send it, they want to know they want to be involved in East Tennessee. I mean, you could direct them to networks or to wherever it would be an appropriate place. So
Yes, we're happy to do that.
if they want to come to Sullivan County, they'll contact networks, but they just don't know exactly where they want to be. They just know they want to be in the eastern part of the state or in East Tennessee. I see that as a valuable part of what.
Now that I understand your question, we've even told people that if you want to come here and look at a business, we will call every economic development director in the region and set up a meeting so you can meet with all of them at one time and present your project. That's what we're here for. So if it might not end up in city A, but it needs to be in region right here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Locke. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, John, but how Lee gets to Sullivan County is Governor Lee's office, you know, or Nashville. They look on the map, they want to know what area to go into. That lead comes to Sullivan County. Networks determines where that prospect needs to go. Prime example, leads have come into Sullivan County before, and the company's ended up in the industrial park in Hawkins County. Correct?
I'm not aware of that project.
Well, I mean, but that's how leads come into areas.
The way I know that leads go through is a lot of times they're sent to the director, Lynn Tolley, and she sends them to every economic development department in the region.
Than what's been working in the last 10 or 15 years, and then the comment being made, we don't know who to go to. Good discussion.
I recognize, if you're finished, I recognize Commissioner Slagle.
Yeah, I was a little bit taken back by that too. It's a real short walk, no disrespect to the governor's office, a real short walk to the elected officials that represent our area here. So I just have a real issue with that statement. I mean, it's a real short walk. Lynn Tully represents this area. You can call her right now. I think maybe that statement wasn't as intended, but it's a real short walk to get to the floor or to someone's office to have conversation to the people who voted to elect those officials.
I'm gonna ask to bring the conversation back to the purpose that Mr. Rose is here. I've exercised a lot of latitude, but we're not off the rails, but we've definitely got paint on the guardrails for sure. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Glover. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Vanover.
Thanks, sir. This discussion is the perfect example of why we have elected officials to take care of Sullivan County business. We don't need a private partnership to do our work for us. We are elected by the people, and we are accountable to the people of Sullivan County. You're accountable to the group that's involved in the bridge. And my problem with this is, we've got a good airport right now, we've got good things going on. We were told to be quiet the next day. It was all over social media, it was all over Facebook, it was all over the news media. I don't want to jeopardize anything that we've got going on at the airport now. And I think what you guys have done is maybe jeopardize some of the flights that we've got coming into the airport now. Because you're funding or going to help fund competition for these folks that's coming in. What are we going to do if they come back and they ask us for the same amount of money that we're giving this other group? How are you going to approach that?
If I could, I'll answer both questions. One is, you referred, I didn't tell anybody to be quiet, so I didn't have that conversation. I don't know who had that conversation with you, but that was not me, number one. Number two, Mead Hunt is our national consultant, and their research and experience shows that we need a low-cost carrier. And the statistics that back that up, airlines consider optimum efficiency at 80% of capacity. They have been running at 79 to 80% of capacity for a long time at the airport. And so that's why fares have stayed where they're at. That's why it is less expensive to travel to Knoxville. I even talked to this person today, they drove to Atlanta because the fare was cheaper. So that's number one, is that they're running at capacity, so there's room for someone else in the market. Here's the biggest reason why there's more room for someone in the market. 60% of the people that are closest to Tri-Airport drive to Roanoke, Asheville, or Knoxville. So we are losing 60% of our market to competing air service, airports that are an hour to 2 hours and a half away. So we have the opportunity to recapture 60% of the market. Now, this one airline, this one initiative won't get 60%, but with that 60% in any business is an opportunity to open a new business. That means 60% of the money that is leaving here can be brought back to here. And if we can achieve that as a region, because it's not Bridge that's going to achieve this, it's not just Sullivan County Commission, it is everybody. We are losing 60% of potential customers to competitors. I would like for them to come to Tri, and if we get them, then American and Delta may have to add flights too. And then when supply of customers exceed what the airlines want, they will add seats and fares will be lower. So I'll hang my hat on the 60% that we're not going to hurt the existing customers, customers being airlines at the airport.
I disagree. Recognize Commissioner Vanover, then Commissioner Iverson.
I just want to clarify what I said to Matt. I mean, I just repeated something I heard the governor say one time, and I'm sure don't want to disrespect our legislators. We got great ones. But I'm thinking the reason he said that was, if he goes to Representative Crawford for something, and other counties will feel like he's playing favorites. If he goes to Representative Hawk in Greene County, then I think other representatives would feel like he's playing favorites there. But if something's in the infancy stages of a project that he would like to see, I think he would like to go to someone that's kind of neutral and doesn't give the legislators the impression that he's playing favorites. So I think that's why he said that. And if he's got something, not a hard project, but something in the infancy stages, like nuclear power plants possibly, he would like to look at someone or talk to someone that's not biased and wouldn't be appeared to be that he's playing favorites by going to one particular legislator. So I imagine that's why he said that, and I certainly don't want to disrespect our legislators in any way, but I think that's the reason why he said that, not to look like he's playing partisan politics here and there. So that's the reason for that statement. Thank you.
Recognize Commissioner Iverson.
Just to talk a couple different things. Just to answer Commissioner Glover's question about running off the other airlines. This was, last month, was the highest flight total in Tri-City Airport history. The highest passenger count total in the airport history. Both of those just that last month. So we're hopefully in the right direction. We're actually gaining flights. We're actually gaining passengers. The question about the presentation at the Hard Rock Casino, was there anything given out as far as the airline or the destinations at that meeting?
No, sir. Meat Hunt did the 95% of that presentation. We did a welcoming and a thank you and some food. And it is basically the same presentation that the Meat Hunt has done at Northeast State before and in other public meetings. It was just updated to be current year numbers as far as travel and percentages.
So to answer the other question as far as saying be quiet about it, what I was saying is that whenever this airline was talking to the airport or talking to the people trying to come to the airport, they have a confidentiality kind of thing. I'm not sure I'm using the right term, but you don't get to say who the airline is. You don't get to say who the destinations are. But there is a lot of stuff going on, and it's like any kind of economic development. When Rural King was coming to Kingsport, they couldn't announce who was coming. When the IMAX is coming to build their big stadium, they can't announce it. So it's not an unusual concept to say, hey, we're trying to get this group to come in, and this is what we have to do. So there are, I'm sure, a few people that know exactly what airports are talking about. And I know they know exactly the airline they're talking about. I'm sure that Mr. Rose does, but with his business or with what the airport is doing with that, they can't let that out. So if I said that it's a big secret, well, yeah, it is a big secret, but I don't know. And even if I did, I couldn't tell you. So that's where it came out as far as we have to be quiet about it, because as soon as you say, hey, this airline is trying to come here, well, the other airports are gonna try to get that same airline. So that's why you keep it low until you actually have something done. And to lead on what he says, is it is called a bleed rate, but it's 60%. 60% of people who live in this area do not fly to this airport. They drive to Knoxville, they drive to Asheville, they drive to Nashville, and it's gonna save them money. The only way we turn that around is to get more airlines and more people flying out of Tri-City. It's a catch-22. You don't fly out of here because it's too expensive, but if you don't fly out of here, then it gets more expensive. So that's what they're trying to do, reaching out to get different airlines. The first thing that the airport did was try to get another thing together to get a flight to Chicago. And they're still working on that because it was a federal grant to get the flight to Chicago. And that was the hub's first work with the airport. And that's why whenever this came along, they asked them to do this. They're not getting a penny of this money. Nothing goes to the hub. Nothing goes to the bridge. What they're doing is helping write the check for free. They're not taking any of our money. They're not keeping any of our money. So.
That clears the board. Mr. Rose, do you have any final comments before we move on to our next item?
Merry Christmas. I truly mean that.
Thank you.
You know, went through the tree lighting ceremony out front, and you see what some of those families have went through. We're blessed to be able to be here and have this discussion, and I'm honored to be able to answer questions for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our door is open, and we know yours is too. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next order is public comment on agenda items. We have a sign-up sheet for public comment on agenda-related items. If you haven't had an opportunity to sign up, you wish to address one of the agendas from public. Anyone wish to sign up public comment for agenda-related items? Seeing none, without objection, public comment portion of the agenda is closed for agenda-related items. That takes us to the review of old business and draft resolutions. Recognize Commissioner Iverson on item number 1 under old business.
We talked about this a little bit last month, but it was put on first reading. Had a couple of commissioners ask me to go ahead and let it go through the voting process. So TCCA, through the Education Committee, which I'm vice chair of that for the state, they asked us to look and see if we would accept the TCA code 5-5-113, which gives $600 to each legislative body member who successfully completes the 8 hours of training that's now required. The reason they were talking about that is that, yes, we all knew what we were signing up for when we came, and so we know there's meetings, we know the things we're gonna have to do, but when it comes to this training, you're having to leave town, some people having to find different ways, take days off from work, and find different daycares or whatever else it may be. So just wanna talk about this, if there's any questions you can ask, but we're just gonna leave it on here to vote.
You've heard the explanation on item number 1. Anyone have any questions, comments on the sponsor on item number 1? Commissioner Law.
Thank you, Chair. Ask the sponsor if they can put it on consent. Shorten it down. No? Okay, that work?
No.
Oh, my.
Commissioner Harrison, what's your desire for item number 1, sir?
Bring that next one, or this next one? Yeah. That's right.
Sponsor moves item number 1 to our regularly scheduled commission meeting next week. Without objection, recognize Commissioner Jones on item number 2.
Item number 2 was on the first reading. Sorry. Item number 2 is a resolution coming from the Observation Audit Committee to authorize the mayor to send a letter of intent to TBA expressing Sullivan County's interest in extending our contract for 30 years. and to exclude, at TVA's request, what had been in our contract since the beginning, the 421 boat ramp. And that's a free to the public lake access area. And that, what they have told us, that would shift responsibility for that either to TVA or TWRA. This is a resolution specific to that contract and not involving any other contracts the county's involved with.
You heard the explanation on item number 2. The floor is open for discussion. Recognize Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'd like to have some clarification because this says that it authorizes, Sullivan County Commission authorizes the county mayor to initiate extension of the county's contract with TVA. So that means that it's to start the process. If initiate means start something. So that means that we'll have the opportunity to come back and see what has been negotiated so that then we can vote on it, correct?
Well, there's no negotiation. It's not a negotiated contract. It's an agreement with us to operate the property within the boundaries of that easement that we have, excluding the 421 boat ramp.
So you're saying that at this point, if we vote on it, that nothing will come back that shows us what has been negotiated, is that correct?
There's no negotiation. It's either we do it or we don't.
So I have a couple of questions on this then. So I looked up, it says that when leasing TVA land for recreational use, the Tennessee Valley Authority generally limits its liability by disclaiming responsibility for injuries or damages occurring on the leased land, while still requiring lessees to adhere to specific rules and regulations regarding land use and maintenance, meaning the lessee is primarily responsible for ensuring safety on the leased property while recreational activities take place. So that being said, have a couple questions on safety, because safety is obviously most concerning to me about whether we continue this or not. So I have a question about the fireworks. So it's my understanding, and I'll read this as well, that no fireworks are permitted on Tennessee Valley Authority property. Fireworks are illegal on all public lands. Have there been fireworks on this property in 2024?
Yes, ma'am. 23, 22, 21.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
21, 22, 23, 24.
So why is it that if it's illegal that this was you believe, or you have?
I'll find that question and answer for you next Thursday.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. You'll do what?
I'll have an answer for that next Thursday for you.
Okay. Well, I think that if we are responsible for liabilities, that I've certainly seen a lot of damage that can be caused by fireworks and injury to people. So I'd like to understand why that's been permitted. With the TVA lease running for 30 years, is there an opt-out clause for the commission if, down the road, they decide they want to opt out of the lease for any reason? Is there an opt-out clause?
Yes, there's an opt-out clause on either side.
Okay, I don't see that in the resolution, so
Well, It's in the contract. This is just a resolution. This
Well-
ain't the whole contract.
I think that if we're approving something, we need to see that. We need to see
I'll
that.
have it for you next Thursday. That's what you decide.
Okay. I'd also like to know if there is a penalty for opting out early.
I don't believe so. I believe you just have to give a notice that you want to terminate.
Okay, that's not my understanding, so
Well,
if you could,
if you have an understanding, why don't you state what it is?
it's what the mayor told me. So I believe the person sponsoring the resolution probably needs to have some answers to this for the
No,
commission to
ma'am.
prove it.
You asked a question, I'm asking, what is your understanding?
My understanding there is a penalty. So I'd like to know what that is, if there's a penalty, and if so, how much. And I'd like to ask one more question. So I know a lot of people in here are business people. So I would ask the question, if you had rental property, and let's say your child was, Sam, let's say your child was renting a house, and they came to you and said, I'd like to have some money to strip out the carpet, put in hardwood floors, want to put some granite countertops in. And you said, I would think you might say, well, you don't own that house, so why should we put money into making those improvements? I think that's something that we need to think about. We don't own this property, we're leasing it. And we need to, obviously, if there's money that needs to be made for safety reasons, I understand that. And at one point, we were told there was $500,000 of improvements that were needed. I don't know why that's changed, and I would think that the committee would be looking at what are the improvements that need to be made, and where's that money going to come from? Because 30 years is a long time, and there's a lot of things out there that need to be improved, and I think if anybody's gone out there, and I think they've done a great job working on it, but if you're making money to put back into the general fund, and then are you going to take it out and put it into something that we don't own? So that's a question that we need to be asking ourselves.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey.
Commissioner Akers.
Thank you, Chairman. Sam, if I read this right, this is just giving the mayor to tell TVA we intend to go forward, but we're not actually signing the contract just yet, I think.
The TVA would like to have the contract, TVA would like to have the contract signed. That we need to give them the notice that we are going to sign a contract. That's what this is doing.
Right, so this is a letter of
Expressing
intent.
Sullivan County's
Yeah.
interest. And I want to get those answers for you next week.
Because do we still have to do a water study? Does anybody know?
What?
A water study?
No,
Not anymore?
a water study.
Yeah, because I was
I
told,
think they do their own pollution studies.
it was gonna cost us $15,000 to $20,000 by TVA
To
in order
buy.
for us to renew the contract.
I've never heard any numbers at all like
Yeah.
that.
And that's why
I
I was
mean, where did you hear those numbers?
from Jake, Johnson City. the
From
TVA.
Jake?
Yeah,
Who's Jake?
the TVA rep.
He's not the TVA rep.
Is he, who's now?
No, the TVA rep is McNutt. And he has from Knoxville, east of all of the region.
Yeah, I'd like to try, I mean, because with my previous board appointments. involved-
Jonathan McNutt.
Yeah, involved TVA, and so I spoke to him about 3 years ago about redoing our contract, see if we could do it early. And at the time, what we talked about was spending $15,000 to $20,000 on a water study. And so, at the time, and we all know the problems we had with Observation Knob Park, there was no way we could ask for that kind of money. But I think the park's in a much better place.
I'll find that out.
Yeah.
I've never heard any kind of number.
Yeah, ask Jonathan. I mean,
Yeah.
I would, And it could have changed, because at the time, he said it was a 25-year lease, and now this says a 30-year lease, so they may have changed it.
Well, they just did 100 lease in Montgomery County.
Yeah, because I asked for a 50-year lease.
Right.
When Jeff Bash took over TVA, I said, let's get, you know, if we're gonna do anything, and he said, no, we're only gonna do 25. So I'd like to know if Jonathan, if things have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you again. Sam, I'd like to also ask if you could provide information on where the money's going to come from that will not make up for the needs that have been identified in the grant application. So I think we heard from Ms. Torbett last week that, or last month, excuse me, that she readily admitted that the costs have gone up considerably over the past 3 years since that grant was submitted, and that there's no way that they can do everything in that grant that needs to be done with the money that's been approved. So that being said, where's that money going to come from to complete those improvements that were identified?
That has nothing to do with this contract with TVA. That's a separate grant from TDOT, and they'll be able to do what they'll be able to do with it. They may not be able to do the full amount that they had initially in the grant request, but they'll do what they can. Now, I don't know what her intent to go forward any other to do, but we're generating money out there now that we've never done before, and we have a good program that's growing daily in the request to use the property.
Yeah, I just would like to know where the money's going to come from to fulfill those, or what. It would be nice to know looking forward. I think to understand if we're committing to 30 years, then, and this is part of it, what does she have the money planned for that is covered in the grant money?
Those are questions that you would have to ask.
What will not be? Well, I think since you're sponsoring the resolution,
The
that's
resolution
information
has
we
nothing
need
to
to.
do with that grant. Nothing to do with that grant. That's a TDOT grant, not a TVA grant.
I'm trying to understand how we're going to pay for things out there if we're looking at extending a lease and continuing. These are questions that we ought to be looking strategically at to determine if it makes sense to sign that lease. So I think all of that, I'm not saying it's connected, but I think those are all questions that
I think
commission would like to have.
I think you are trying to connect it together, and the TDOT grant was a grant that we received it because we're part of the Over Mountain Trail that goes through there, and that will be continued through there. But inside of that, we would have money to do some improvements. No county money. That's money from the federal government through TDOT that flowed to us in order to do those improvements. And I think a question was asked, why had it taken so long? Well, you had such a turnover in TDOT employees in the past. It kept getting passed on, and finally, we did receive, everybody received that timeline and the 5-year plan for developing that grant last month.
That clears the board. Commissioner Jones, your desire on item number 2, sir?
We'll just move on to next Thursday. Thank you.
Sponsor moves item number 2 to our next calendar. Without objection, recognize Commissioner Vanover on item number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the application for, the acceptance of, and appropriation of funds from the EPA for the improvement of local waste management systems, including the construction of a materials recovery facility. This is called a SWIFR grant. Mark Torbett has explained it to me. They've applied for it for many years. It's a very competitive grant. The more you apply for it, the better chance you've got to have a higher ranking next year. He's hopeful that we can get this grant in the next couple of years. It's a $5 million grant. There's no matching funds, so I hope everyone will support this, and I'd like to ask for it to be put on the consent calendar.
You've heard the explanation on item number 3. The floor is open for discussion. Recognize Commissioner King.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Vanover, being that we accept this, if we do get this grant and we accept it, would there be any more regulations and stuff that we'd have, federal regulations and stuff that we'd have to go by because we received this grant?
Honestly don't know. I wish I had an answer. I'll check with Sherry DeValder, grant coordinator, and try to have those answers next week if that's acceptable. I really don't know what, there's always strings attached to free money, I think.
Exactly, that's where I'm going is, if we accept this, then what regulations are we gonna have, and, is that gonna cost us more, or, be a hardship on us, or whatever?
It's a very competitive grant. It's one that Mark's been trying to get for years and years. You got 3 years to spend the money. I know that. If you get it, you got 3 years to spend the money. But what strings are attached, that's what Sherry DeVault's job is, and I'm glad she's there, but I'll find out, and if you'd rather, we'll knock it off consent, put it on first reading.
Let's do that so you can get some answers.
Yes, no problem. First reading, please.
We'll just roll it to next.
Roll it to next week.
Sponsor moves item number 3 to next calendar Thursday. Without objection, recognize Commissioner Iverson on item number 4. Item number 4 is about the body cameras. Last month, Attorney Street said he was really brought that to my attention and brought that to Commission's attention that we have issues and body cameras would be a great thing to have. So after that comment, I talked to the sheriff, and the first thing I want to know is it something that he wants? And he said, yes, he did. So with the sheriff saying he wants them, the county attorney saying we need them, the next thing was to find out, can we afford them? So I talked to Travis Ward, which had already been working on it, but with his surgery, he wasn't sure if he was going to be here tonight, so I was actually, he asked me, and I gladly took it from that point. So I talked to our finance director. The next question is, okay, they want them, can we afford them? And talking with Larry Bailey, I won't put words in his mouth, but I think we can afford them. And it didn't seem like there was any hesitance there. Give a little bit of information about it, but then Captain Lane is back there, and he's going to come forward and help us out with a lot of it. But so the body cameras are multi-level. It's one of the things that it's great for the officer to have it to prove what happened. It also has a recording of everything going on. All the studies and the research I did was finding out basically that the incidents of violence go way down with body cameras because the person being apprehended knows that they're being recorded. The officer knows he's being recorded, he or she, and it makes it for just a better environment. It makes it to where there's not lawsuits out there, frivolous lawsuits, or there may, in fact, be issues, but there will be a camera that's showing exactly what's happening. One of the things that I found is that body cameras are great, but if able, you need to have it on the tasers as well, because whenever an officer is holding a taser, his arms are covering up the camera, and actually the process that they already looked at through accident does have that. It has both of those. So I consider it an insurance policy. I think it's something that we have several. Anybody on the executive committee right now knows there's several lawsuits that we're having right now through the county, that having a recording of that would have been a great thing and may save a tremendous amount of money, even much more than actually looking at a 5-year process. At first, they had an offer to us that we could do it at a low amount for the first year to wean our way into it, and then be a little bit higher on the last year. But for budgeting reasons, it would be better if we just had a balanced payment. So the first, one of the questions I had was this: where's this going to come from? Well, the first one will have to come from our fund balance, but anything beyond that will be actually in our budget for the sheriff's department. Another question is, why now? Why not back during the budget time?
we had a very chaotic budget time. You guys remember how much fun the budget time was. And at that time, it was probably just not the right time for them to bring it forward. But once we found out how many lawsuits Dan's having to deal with right now, I think it's something we need to look at and address. Can we delay it? Absolutely. But it's an insurance policy. So if you delay it, the price that they gave us is good until the end of this year. That doesn't mean it's gonna go up drastically. I just know the price we have is good till the end of the year. That's why I think we need to do it now. Could we wait till the budgetary cycle and start it then? Sure we could. But again, it's an insurance policy. What's gonna happen between now and then? Is it worth the risk that we're taking? So in my opinion, it's something we need to go through, but, Captain Lane, if you wouldn't mind. I guess Chairman, please.
And then I'm gonna open the floor up for discussion, because, Commissioner Harvey is seeking recognition, but, Captain Lane, you're recognized.
So what we'd like to do at the Sheriff's Office is purchase 130 body cams. That would cover our post-certified officers at the Sheriff's Office. That would cover our folks that work our patrol division, our courts, our process, our school resource officers, our detectives. We're asking for 5 years to go into a contract with Axon. Through this process, 30 months into it, they will update our equipment, and then 60 months we'll get more equipment. Through the Sheriff's Office, I've been at the Sheriff's Office for 27 years. There's countless times that I've told my story, and I would like to have a body cam to tell my story as an officer on the other side of it. We do have several litigations that are going through right now on lawsuits. I believe those could have been eliminated if we would have had a body cam to show the officers' side of what's going on in the situation that they're in. Also, another part of it is the de-escalation for the body cams. A lot of folks act different when they're on a camera on our part, also on frivolous complaints on our officers. And also, if we do have an officer that is doing something wrong, then we have that on camera also, and we can correct that problem. Through our agency, what we would do is we would have the Axon come in and train our officers. These body cams would have a policy in place with the body cams that we have. We'd have training for all of our officers that's within the agency. Also with the body cams, it would be transparency for the agency and for the county also. If a critical situation shows up, I'm sure that a lot of you guys have seen things in the news, and they come out with a presentation and show a body cam shortly afterwards of actually what happened. That prevents a lot of stories and a lot of things that's going on, and a lot of half-truths in the cases that go on. For the county, for the citizens, I would like to have the transparency, and also for the protection of my officers that work for me. There could be a situation that a body cam has come up and there's nobody that can tell the story what happens to one of the officers or something on the situation. We have the body cam we can refer back to and use as an investigative tool to find out what's going on in the situation.
Thank you, Captain.
Yes.
I'm gonna, you can stay right there if you wish, and someone may have questions for you as well. The floor is open for discussion. Recognize Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you. I think I mentioned this to Commissioner Iverson, that I'd like to be added as co-sponsor to this. Thank you.
Commissioner Ward.
Thanks, sir. There's not many resolutions that come through here that I've seen, and speak up if I say something wrong here, that I see Dan Street strongly support, and I think Larry Bailey also strongly supports this resolution. Like Mark said, it's an insurance policy. I think if you would sit in on some of the executive committees that me and Mr. Crawford have sat on and heard some of the allegations against some officers, if we'd had those cameras, we wouldn't have settled some of the lawsuits that we settled, I believe. And I think we would have paid for this times 10. So it's definitely an insurance policy for many reasons. I mean, it's gonna protect our officers, and just like Captain Lane said, if we have an officer not doing what he's supposed to do, it's also gonna protect the county. So I strongly encourage everybody to get on board with this. It's a good thing for all of us, a good thing for the county, and I ask that you support this.
Commissioner King. No, time's up. Go ahead.
There we go.
We'll try.
There we go.
Commissioner King.
All right, there we go, I'm sorry. Several years ago, we passed our budget on body cameras for the officers. What happened to them, or what was the reason that they did away with them?
So the body cams that we had at that time, we ended our body camera policy in 2016, the last body cams that we had. The body cams that we had at that time were, to be quite honest, at that time I had one and they were flimsy. They were, basically you could take the SD card out of it. I could take that SD card if I wanted to be not completely honest, and I could pop it into any computer and I could download that information and make that disappear. Also at that time, those body cams that we had, during the foot pursuit, they were about the size of a cigarette lighter. So if you're out of the nighttime and you lose that body cam, you've lost all that evidence that you could have gained all night long because you've had that body cam on. Basically at that time, they were a fix that was not the answer to what body cams are now. They were a cheap option that was used at that time that was not officer friendly and not law enforcement friendly. It did not have the retention of the evidence that we could be used at that time. Also at that time, I believe that, and I'd have to look back in 2016, I was not in the command staff at the sheriff's office like I am now. I was a patrol deputy. And at that time, there was really no accountability for the evidence that comes along with it, which with these body cams now that we have, they are tagged and the information is uploaded and it's like on as secure as a military server.
Why wasn't they updated to what we're looking at now? I mean, why was there a gap there that they didn't have them? That was my question. If there's, I think they're good, but you know, why was that whole period of time that y'all didn't have them?
So, like I said, during 2016, I was not in the command staff of the sheriff's office. Since the new sheriff has come in and since this time period, there's been things that we've needed that are more important, not to say more important than a body cam, but there's things that are more critical for officers to have at that time, which would be a taser, updated equipment at the sheriff's office.
All right, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So these body cams that we're looking at here, they would upload to a cloud-based kind of thing, like, in other words, there's not an SD card that you pull out and turn in, or is there, like, how does that technology work?
Sure. So Axon has their own system that's called evidence.com. You have your body cam and you bring it into the sheriff's office or to the station. It is uploaded to the cloud at that time through military encryption, their encryption software. At that time, the incident that occurred when the body cam was on, they have GPS tracking with them, and also it integrates into our system, our CAD system that CADs where the officers are and knows where the officers are. It updates that call into it and shows that at that time that's what that was used for. That everything's stored in the cloud, nothing's stored on site at the sheriff's office.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Jones.
Captain Wayne.
Yes, sir.
Is there a piece of equipment that you could bring next Thursday and show us what that, or do you not have any of that yet?
I'm sure that I could get one.
I'd just like to see what it looks like.
What I'll do is I'll contact the representative from Axon. When I leave here tonight, I'll email him, and I will see that he can send me a demo model for next week.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ward.
I would strongly value right now Attorney Street's opinion on what he thinks about. If I may ask him his opinion on what he thinks body cameras would do for us.
Commissioner Attorney Street, do you wish to respond to that?
Yes, I would love to have body cameras. I'm in favor of them 150%. You know, I don't know how else to impress upon you. We really do need them. I think it would be great to add those to our law enforcement. It protects them. It protects their integrity. It gives them confidence. I mean, the only thing that can go bad with them is if somebody does do something wrong, but I just don't think that happens that often. So I'm all for it. I highly, highly recommend it.
Thank you, Attorney Street.
Commissioner Ward, sir?
Captain Lane, would there be a policy in place for officers that say don't turn on their body camera?
Sure, so, when we put anything in place at the sheriff's office, whether it's in-car cameras, whether it's less than lethal weapons, in this case, it's gonna be the body cams. So we will put a policy in place. If you don't follow the policy, then discipline can occur on that part of it. Just like anything, not wearing your seatbelt, even up to us on pressing your uniform and having a clean uniform, being presentable, there's repercussions for not following the policy that's put in place within the sheriff's office. Also, as a CALEA certified agency, we also have rules and standards that we have to meet by as being a nationally law enforcement accredited agency. So our policy will mirror what is accepted within the United States for other law enforcement agencies.
Does anyone else have any questions for Captain Lane?
So basically, you're getting 2 cameras per person, right? You're gonna have a body camera, and you're gonna have a camera on your taser.
So what happens with that is the Axon makes taser. So actually what'll happen is anytime that the taser is pulled out or anytime that the taser is drawn, it will activate the body cam on the officer.
Okay.
So there won't be a second camera inside of the taser, but it'll activate the one inside of your,
Okay.
that you wear on your chest. Also, the way that these body cams work is if I push it and I activate my body cam, it goes back within a allotted time period. The rule of thumb is about 60 seconds. If you watch any of the video cameras of the footage, 60 seconds, it goes back and picks up the video footage on it, then it starts recording the audio part of it. So you have a period that goes back.
Any other ways to turn the camera on other than when you pull your taser?
So Axon also has a thing that in a critical situation that you can access that body cam. That we could access it at the sheriff's office. It's a critical situation. We'd have an officer that's hurt, an officer's down, we can access that body cam.
So
That would be only during a critical situation where it's officer safety is paramount.
So in that officer safety, does it have GPS location?
I would have to, I know that it logs the GPS coordinates with where you're at on the call.
Okay.
It has an auto tag that will be built into our CAD system.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Akers.
Thank you, Chairman. And those were good questions, Travis. You did get on the roll there with Captain Lane. And, you know, I'm a much more visual person, and y'all had a great discussion there. And you talked about the taser being activated when you pull it and push it. Do you think we could see a demonstration of that on Joe Carr next Thursday?
All it is a signature, not make it happen.
Attorney Street?
Yes, did I understand you to say that it's only activated when you pull the taser?
No, when your taser is drawn, it'll automatically turn the body cam on, but also it'll turn the body cam on once you press it. So you can turn on the body cam. If I'm conducting a traffic stop, I push my body cam while I'm stopping the car. It's recording back 60 seconds. It's recording my whole interaction. Then after the stop is over with, I can push it and hold it and turn the body cam off. Or if I have a general contact with anybody in the public. We'll have a lot of contacts over it because we answer about 72 to 77,000 calls a year as a patrol division. So we have many more law enforcement contacts too that we'll have off that information.
Mr. Jones.
In this contract, is this also providing storage for the county?
Yes.
That's part of the contract with Axon. They provide the military secure storage?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I would ask the sponsor if he would consider all those voting in the affirmative be added as co-sponsors.
Absolutely, be added.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ward.
Just a little bit of the policy. Say traffic stop. At what point are they turning that camera on? What's going to be the policy?
So the policy part for what I would like to see within the policy is anytime that you have contact on a traffic stop, if I go out and I interact with anybody in the public, if I go out on a theft call, if I go out on a suspicious person call, any type of contact with that within the general public.
So camera better be on.
Better be on.
Okay. Cars have in-car cameras, so they'll have 2 cameras.
So you have 2 cameras on it. when you do a traffic stop, you have your body and auto.
So the way that our cameras work in our car is when you turn the lights on the car, as soon as they go to the first part that turns on the back lights, it automatically activates your camera. That records back 30 seconds. When you push your body cam, it'll record a minute back and forth.
You snuck in there on me, Sam.
And most of our cars have 2 cameras also. There's one in the back seat.
Commissioner Horn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The technology for when just like the taser is pulled, when the firearm is pulled, it activates, will that be included in your all's package?
It's not included in the price on this package.
Okay. But that is available?
That is available.
Attorney Street?
Yes, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, one thing that needs to be considered is the storage. We were talking about storage. Our lawsuits sometimes are not filed until a year after an event happens, so I know over cameras in the sheriff's department today are often, video is often taped over every 30 days, every 60 days, every 90 days, like that. I would suggest that you take that into consideration when you, I assume you're gonna buy some cloud storage as part of this deal?
Yes.
Well, I'm just thinking ahead. I don't know that you can really afford to delete all this video after 30, 60 days, because most of the time the lawsuits that get filed, they get filed the day before the 1 year statute of limitations runs. We can talk about that, but I just wanted to mention that.
Anyone else have questions for Captain Lane? Captain Lane, thank you for being here. Commissioner Harrison, give you final word on item number 4.
I think what happens, I had something to say that. The one thing I actually did send everybody today in your email, you may not have had a chance to look at it because it was just before the meeting. There were a couple of things sent by Captain Lane from Axum. It has the pictures of the body cams, it has a lot of different stuff. So if you have a chance to look at it, or if you have any questions, that'll actually answer a lot of them. But I'm going to ask for waiver of rules just for I expect next week they'll ask for waiver of rules, because I do want to hit that timeline and the numbers that we have, us having to go back and do that. Wait.
Sponsor moves item 4 to our next scheduled meeting next Thursday. Without objection, recognize Commissioner Crosswhite on item number 5. Sit. Which one of y'all is doing it? Whoever's doing it, hit their button. Recognize Commissioner Cotton.
This is something that we do yearly, and it's to adopt the 2025 Sullivan County Highway Department Road Atlas, and I ask that we put it on consent.
You've heard the explanation on item number 5. Any discussion on item number 5? Sponsor moves consent calendar. Any objection to item number 5 being placed on consent calendar? Without objection, item number 5 is placed on consent calendar. Without objection, recognize Commissioner Cole on item number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a training grant. It's for the corrections divisions, our corrections deputies. The grant is no matching fund, no new money. It is for the amount of $12,750. Since it's no matching funds, no new money, I would like to place this on the consent agenda. No objection.
You've heard the explanation on item number 6. Any discussion on item number 6? Sponsor moves consent calendar on item number 6. Commissioner Locker, you see, you're getting ready for item 7, right? Okay. Sponsor moves consent calendar for item number 6. Any objection to item number 6 being placed on consent calendar? Without objection, item number 6 is placed on consent calendar. Without objection, recognize Commissioner Locke on item number 7.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 7, I ask for it to be on consent as well. It's a cleaning up resolution that's already been in place, has been in place. It's an interlocal agreement between the City of Kingsport, the old City Hall building, located at 225 West Center Street. It's for undivided ownership, 16% of that property. And that's it.
You've heard the explanation on Item number 7, any discussion on item number 7? Sponsor moves consent calendar on item number 7. Any objection to item number 7 being placed on consent calendar?
We get 16% proceeds.
Without objection, item number 7 is placed on consent calendar. Without objection, recognize Commissioner Harrison on item number 8. Recognize Commissioner Vanover on item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one Commissioner Aker will like, I'm sure. Resolution to authorize the Sullivan County Purchasing Agent to enter into a 60-month lease with Canon Solutions America for the Board of Education office copiers. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Sullivan County, Tennessee hereby authorizes the purchasing agent to execute a 60-month lease at $16.07 per month, plus per copy cost with Canon Solutions of America. This is recommended by the Sullivan County Board of Education and comes from their fund balance, and I'd like to have everyone support the resolution for copiers.
You've heard the explanation on item number 8. The floor is open for discussion. Commissioner Vanover.
The roll list next, it's got money, so I can't do consent, so we'll roll it to next week.
Sponsor moves item number 8 to our next scheduled calendar, next Thursday. Without objection, recognize Commissioner Vanover on item number 9. Or is that Commissioner Harrison?
Yeah, I guess we're going to kind of do a little bit backwards.
Okay. Commissioner Harrison.
So, Chairman, if it would be acceptable, I could talk about item 9, 10, 12, 13, or 12, 13, and 14. They're all 5 the exact same thing. So I'd like to just speak to them all at once if it's possible.
You can hit the high points on all
Yes,
of them.
yes, it's.
So you say 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13?
9, 10, 12, 13, 14.
9, 10, 12.
So these came out of Larry Bailey's office, Kirsten Buttram, working with the school department. These all cover what this body has already said the school department could spend last year, but they didn't spend the entire amount. So at the end of the year, the money that wasn't spent wasn't rolled into this year's budget request. So she saw that, she caught that, she said we have to fix that. So this came out of Larry's office to say these monies have already, a lot of them already been spent, but all of them are projects that this group has already authorized the school department to do, and they've started on all of them. Some of them are to the point of fruition, but all of them have already been started, and the money needs to be there to complete those projects. It's coming from the school department's general fund, or not general fund, but it's fund balance. And again, it's something that this group has already authorized to happen, but since they didn't get it finished in last year's budget cycle, it didn't continue into this year's budget cycle, so it should be changed over to it. And that's the high points of all of those. All 5 of those are projects that we have already approved, and it came from Larry Bailey's office.
You've heard the explanation. The floor is open for discussion. Any discussion? Commissioner Akert.
Yeah, I thought a lot of these sounded very familiar. But then like on item 13, I'm just trying to understand. Because I remember us talking about that boiler at Mary Perry.
Yes.
Miller Perry. And, you know, the way it reads, it says, expenditure for the Sullivan County Board of Education undesignated fund balance amount of $300,000 to cover the cost of replacing the boiler at Miller Perry. The total amount expended in order encumbered during the 23-24 fiscal year for this approved project was 0, because we approved it in 24, so I understand that. A more cost-effective solution was identified, and the boiler could be repaired. So then it says, undesignated fund balance to the general purpose school budget for the amount of funds remaining from the previously approved resolution 99. So they essentially was able to repair it for $200.
Exactly. Yeah, so they only spent the $99,575.
So we're kind of moving that money back into their general fund?
It will stay in their fund balance. We're just letting them move that $99,500 from their fund balance into it instead of.
Oh, from where it was encumbered for the boiler?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So we said they could do $300 to buy one.
Right.
then they spent $99.5 repairing it instead. But it happened in this year's budget cycle, so we just need to get that money back over to it. I'm done.
Anyone else seek recognition? And you were speaking directly to items, again, number items 9, 10.
12, 13, and 14.
What's your desire for those resolutions?
Waiver of rules, please.
Okay, you'll be moving waiver of rules on all those.
Yes, sir.
That leaves us with
Back to 11, and that'll be Mr. Sullivan.
item number 11. Mr. Cross, thank you, Sarah.
I apologize, Mr. Speaker, I rang in late. Because I really didn't know what I wanted to say. Normally I ring in if I have something I really want to say, but the boiler, for instance, I'm going to use it for instance. I remember last year, again, when this passed, it was a very big, we had to get this fixed. It was cold. It was wintertime last year when we did this. And I'm all for being cost effective. But at the time, I just remember a lot of these resolutions come across with this money, and it kind of, I just feel like it kind of skewed the budget process. So I'm not against any of these. I understand what they're doing. I understand moving the money back, but I just wish there was a better way of viewing them. You understand, I'm not questioning you or anyone. It just feels like, all right, we need 300,000, but all right, no, never mind. We spent 99,000. We're gonna move this 200 back. I just wish it was more efficient way of looking at what actually was needed, what actually has to be done. That's the only comment I have.
Commissioner Harrison.
I understand the comment completely, and I really do. And I hate to say it because I'm not 100% sure, but trying to find certain items and certain machinery is sometimes a challenge. So I know that they have the intent of fixing, and I'm not sure if the complete reason for repair versus the fix was the cost, or if it was actually couldn't get what they needed to, because I would imagine they would prefer to put a new one in than spend $100,000 and you still have an old piece of equipment that's not working. So.
Yes.
Commissioner Vanover.
I had the same question, Andrew, about that, and I talked to Mr. Carter about how do we save all this money, and he said, well, a lot of it had to do with the new maintenance director we've got now. They changed maintenance directors sometime during this process, and the previous maintenance director was wanting to replace the whole boiler. The new guy looked at it and said, I think we can fix it, repair it, and save money. So a lot of this one has to do with the new maintenance director, I think.
And you seeking recognition on those resolutions, Commissioner King?
Yeah.
Commissioner King.
Well, this, the first resolution, we had a donation at East High School, and they got the money, they spent the money. This money was left over. It's been going on 2 years now, and it was, and all these, if we've seen them once before, they come in here, and it was so bad the way that they was presented. They took them, and it's taken them that long to figure out what they were doing and bring them back to us. So it was a screw up on the school board. Bottom line, that's all you can say about it. That's where it's coming from. And so, I'm glad we got it straightened out. We got some new people over there that straighten things out, and I'm glad that's happened. And, things will move on. But anyway, that's where it came from, so. All right. Yeah.
Without objection, and the deputy clerk to my left has told me that that takes us to item number 11. Is that correct? Without objection, recognize Vanover or Ireson on item number 11, whichever one of them rings in first.
I got it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 11 is a resolution to approve an expenditure appropriation from the Sullivan County Board of Education General Purpose School Fund undesignated fund balance. I think it should be for the structural review of Sullivan Middle School. You know, Sullivan Middle School is not being used anymore for a school, and I think this is just part of the evaluation process, seeing what's structurally sound in the school, what's not structurally sound, and what needs to remain and what possibly might need to be demolished. Now therefore be it further resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Sullivan County assembled in session hereby authorize the allocation of funds from the Sullivan County Board of Education undesignated fund balance in the general purpose school budget in the amount of $14,800 for the structural review of Sullivan Middle School. This is coming from their fund balance. There's no extra money from the county commission, so the money is there. I think it's a prudent thing to do to look at the structure of that facility and see what can be salvaged and what can't be. So I'd like to move this to next week and ask for a waiver of rules, please.
You've heard the explanation. The floor is open for discussion. Recognize Commissioner King.
Is Caden Rice and West the only engineers that we can get to do any of these projects? I mean, they've screwed up enough stuff in over the past few years. I mean, when are we going to learn who to get and who not to get? And I'm sorry, but that, you know, this is costing taxpayers money. Every time that we have to go and redo stuff that they designed, it don't work. So, I'm sorry, but that's just the way I feel about it. If there's other architects out there that if we can't use somebody besides them, you know, we don't need to do the project.
Thank you, Commissioner King. Commissioner Vanover.
This is a school that's not being used anymore. They got to look and see what needs to be demolished and what needs to be left. So I don't think they've done any engineering on it up to this point.
Well, we can find somebody else.
They possibly could, but I think at this point they're just looking to see what can be salvaged and what needs to be torn down.
Commissioner Vanover, you move item number 11 to next week's calendar, sir.
Please.
Sponsor moves item number 11 to our next available calendar. Next order, item, well, already took up 13, correct? Next order is item number 15. Recognize Commissioner Cowden.
This is to sell the county on delinquent tax property. The committee heard it and they had, there was $12,351.77 owed against taxes, but we got a bid on it. And I think it's just half acre. It's in Bristol at 935 Hill Street. And we accepted $250 for the bid, and I'd like to put this on consent.
You've heard the explanation on item number 15. The floor is open for discussion on item number 15. Does anyone seek recognition? Sponsor moves consent calendar for item number 15. Any objection to item number 15 being placed on consent calendar? Without objection, item number 15 is placed on consent calendar. I'm going to reverse these two things. It's a better order. I'm going to Commissioner Cross. Did anyone sign up for general public comment? Anyone that didn't get an opportunity to sign up for general public comment, wish to sign up for general public comment? Without objection, the general public comment portion of the agenda is closed. Announcements. Anyone seek recognition for announcements? Commissioner Glover.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have an announcement, but I do want to be recognized on a couple items, please.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rose came tonight to speak to us about the resolution from last month. It was item number 3 on last month's agenda, resolution to authorize the county to enter into an agreement with the bridge to incentivize new passenger air service at Tri-Cities Airport. I want my name struck from the record. I'm going to go on record as having my name struck from supporting that resolution. I do not wish to support it. and I don't want to have my vote counted on it, and I want to explain why. 16th day of February of 2023, this county commission passed a resolution. And this resolution states, to deny support or steps relative to membership in or financial support of Sullivan County Board of Commissioners as players in conceptual public-private agreements or partnerships referred to as regionalism efforts, including but not limited to current attempts by Appalachian Highlands Economic Development Partnership, the Hub region, Net Hub, Regional Hub, or any naming or renaming thereof. This resolution was passed and was on record. There was 20 yes, 2 and 3 no's. And by reading that resolution into record, I don't see how that we can support Bridge and fund $10,000 through their private partnership to help with the airport. So if the sponsor wants to bring another resolution back to recognize NETA or networks to handle that money, that's his decision to make. But I want to go on record saying that I don't support the way it was handled, and I will not support passing $10,000 through the bridge, since it's the same thing as the hub that we voted not to support in February of '23.
Thank you, Commissioner Glover. Anyone else seek recognition? Mr. Jones.
First of all, Commissioner, I understand what you're saying. This is not funding the bridge at all. They are the organization that the airport is using to hold the funds, because federal law does not allow the airport to spend money for marketing. We could be, if they did, we could be subject to every federal grant that's ever been given to that airport have to be repaid, and being an owner of it, we would be liable in that situation. They're just the holding organization for all the private money and the owners, including us. And I understand where you're coming from.
If you wish to be recognized, press your button. I'll recognize you. Commissioner Jones, you have the floor.
They are the entity to hold the money and to pay the airlines. That's who the airport chose to be their agent in this. That's one of the responsibilities that they have been asked to provide, and they agreed to be that agent of record for it. I'm using that term, agent of record. But to be the entity that would handle the money at no cost. There's nothing for them coming out of it. All they're doing is handling the money to guarantee the airlines for 2 years.
Anyone seek recognition? Commissioner Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to hear Dan's take on what, with that information, Dan, having a resolution on record, does the resolution we passed last month conflict with that? Or are we good where we stand today?
I would say you're good where you stand. This body can always change what it passes by resolution, just like you could change your mind. So I think that the final clause in any resolution says any resolution in conflict herewith is rescinded, or I forget exactly what it says, but I don't think there's a problem with what you're talking about.
Anyone else seek recognition? Commissioner Akert.
Yeah, I was gonna do this privately, but we opened it up. I kind of agree with Dan because that last line in it, and I've been studying it tonight, unfortunately. Because we always put those last lines in there just because, and I think that's what, if anything has been learned, to actually pay attention and read these resolutions. Now, the problem I have still is the time frame on it, because the line above all that says passage goes into effect with passage of this resolution. So to me, that starts the clock on the 24 months, the day that thing gets signed. Not 90 days from now, not 6 months in case they get it or not. And there's no stopgap in there. How are they going to ask for the money? You know, it says up to $10,000. Well, if I'm coming to you, I want all $10,000, you know? Are they going to send us a receipt, or they just want all $240,000 in the first 24 months? That's the problem I have. Well, there's a lot of others, but right now, if that resolution stands as is, there's no stopgap. It says it goes in effect at passage, which was last month, and I don't know when it's been signed. If it has been signed, I have no idea. So therefore, 24 months starts, in my opinion, the day that thing is signed into a resolution. And I think that's, I mean, it's a learning curve. You know, you fool me once, shame on me. You fool me twice, it ain't gonna happen again. And so, it's not that, I mean, we did say we weren't gonna fund them, and I do feel like the wool was pulled over our eyes. Again, I wasn't here, and I apologize for that. But they knew what was happening. It was wide open on who the bridge was and what was gonna be, apparently to everybody else, as long as they got, and then it was kind of interesting, they came to us first for this kind of funding, when they knew we weren't even a partner of theirs. They beat down all of our emails and our phones trying to, you know, to get us to talk about it for months, and then when they want the money, none of us got an email about it. And that's frustrating, you know? And a lot of it did go. I'll be honest with you, the two sponsors on it probably used up a lot of clout that they had in this room for that right there, for $240,000, you know? And that's shameful, you know? You know, when we're spending taxpayer money, we should know exactly what it's going to be about. And that's the frustrating part, you know? And I'm sorry, I was going to have some of these conversations in private, but we started them tonight, so.
Mr. Ayers. I understand what you're saying as far as the timeline. Every resolution we have, the reason we have questions and answers and everything else, and that was one thing that was mentioned at the budget committee meeting yesterday, was that the finance director and his office has to look at the intent and has to look at the wording of it and look at how it's going to be applied. The intent was clearly stated that night is that this is not going to happen until June, because the same night we talked about the amount of money that we had and how we're going to give part to Netta and part to Matthew's office, and why we wouldn't take any of this part out now was because it's not due now. It's not going to happen until if the airline is approved, unless the deal happens. So as of now, there's not a penny being spent because there is no deal. There is no airline yet. So everything about this, and I'm sorry you feel deceived, but there was no deception to it. It's just trying to get air service to our airport. If it happens, it won't happen until May. If it happens in May, we won't get a first count of any kind of how much is owed until June. The amount of a $2 million note is $84,000 a month. We're now up to $10,000 a month from Sullivan County, but every other partner's going to have whatever they have. And if they say that we owe $80,000 that month, then the only thing the bridge does is the math to say, okay, who owes what? And here it is, Sullivan County, this is your portion, up to $10,000. It's never going to be just a boom, you're paying the $10,000 unless there is that month we don't get enough money from passenger sales. But the ticket sales will go from all three airports. The airline that's going to be flying is going to be using us as a three-legged stool. It'll park one airport, come here and go to the other airport. The tickets that every passenger on the airplane, we will get credit for that as far as the money goes. At first, I imagine there'll be a significant amount of that money will have to be paid because there's not going to be enough people even knowing about the airline. Selling tickets takes 90 days to even get started. Who knows how long it's gonna take until more people are on those airplanes? So I'm sorry that anybody feels deceived. I mean, we're not dealing with the hub, we're not getting involved with the hub, they're doing a daggone billing. That's all they're doing on this. So I don't see why it's such an issue. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe I didn't look at it as something that I thought was really important, because I didn't see it as important. They're not the one doing this. They're not even it's Meade and Hunt that's the one that's actually doing the thing itself. The only thing that the hub is involved with, or the bridge is involved with, is the billing. They're doing the paperwork. They're not keeping one penny of the money. If anybody feels deceived beyond that, I'm sorry, but it's not happening now. They're not gonna get the money now. It's a 6-month, it starts June, if at all.
Commissioner Glover, then Commissioner Carr.
It's not that I'm feeling that I was deceived, Mark. You knew. You knew who Bridge was, and you should have told us. It was your resolution, and you knew our past experience with that. By doing what happened last month has gave wings to that group. That's a private partnership. And what that's going to do, that's going to hurt us in the future with economic development in Sullivan County. Commissioner Lockett sitting right beside him tried to explain to you a minute ago, they're working all over the area, not just in Sullivan County, all over the area. So what we done, and like I said, I want my name off of it completely. It gave that group wings and air. The next day, they were all over news media bragging about what had happened. They were on Facebook bragging about what had happened, and it was all set up. And damn it, I fell for it, and I don't like it. And I agree with Mr. Akert. I've lost a lot of trust, and I'm sorry.
Commissioner Glover and Commissioner Carr, if you'll forgive me, since Commissioner Iverson's name is called, I'm going to allow him time to respond to that, and then we'll come back to you, sir. Commissioner Iverson.
The original resolution, I know several in this room were invited to a presentation by the hub before we were even commissioners. I like networks, love what they do for us, and never want to see us go away from it. Completely still on board with that. I didn't feel it was a big deal because they're not getting the money. They're not involved other than the fact that they're doing the billing. Is that something that, I mean, I guess I didn't even bring it up because I didn't consider it's anything at all. We're not supporting them. We're not giving them money. We're not, and all they're doing is, the airport asked them to do the billing because they're able to touch all the different entities. They go across the state line, and part of the owners is from Virginia for the Tri-City Airport. So Networks was at that meeting. I think Clay has no problem with what happened. As a matter of fact, I know he said that he has no problem with what happened. And for us to sit back and think that, and I'm sorry that you feel deceived because there was really no deception intended. And, sorry, I don't know what to say.
Commissioner Carr, then Commissioner Akers. Commissioner Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I get what, Herschel, what you're saying. I get what you're saying, David, but all due respect, the circumstances have changed. It's a different person running the hub now. You got John Rose running things, and bottom line is he's a guy who gets things done. My district, if you remember when we did it's right outside of my district. It's technically in Hunter Locke's district, but there was that motel there that had been a blight. The crime, the drugs from that was spilling over into my community. He helped get a deal done that demolished that, has a business there now. He's someone who gets things done. He's someone I think we can work with. I would just caution you all against, looking a gift horse in the mouth here. This is a chance for us to lead the way in something and do something that's going to benefit Sullivan County. A cheaper airfare, another airline. I don't see how you can say no to that, even if you don't like or trust the organization that's doing that. I think this could be the start of building that trust.
Commissioner Packard.
again, and I understand there's a lot of intent. You know, Commissioner Iverson said the intent that night, and now we may not be starting building until June. The problem is, now therefore be it resolved by that the Board of Commissioners of Sullivan County hereby designates up to $10,000 a month from the hotel motel tax revenues over 2 years, a total of $240,000 to assist in airport funding revenue guarantees to incentivize new passenger service routes. This resolution shall take effect from and after the passage. All resolutions in conflict herewith and the same rescinded insofar as such conflict exists. Duly passed and approved this day. It doesn't say we're going to wait 6 months. So I will, as long as Dan agrees, and I'm not going to ask him a 100% answer, but to me, that clock has already started ticking. And I'm not going to come back in, 30 months and say, well, it didn't happen as soon as we wanted to. I'll give you the 24 months because it's done. But that clock's ticking. It's not ticking starting in June. That's not what this says. This says the resolution shall take effect from and after its passage. And that's why I'm a huge airport person. I mean, I get that. It's just, there's no way, there's nothing in there that says how it's going to be happening and when it starts. And it says it starts as soon as it's passed, is my opinion, So.
Commissioner Vanover.
I just want to say that I'm sorry if anyone felt like they were deceived too. That there was no intent for anyone to deceive anybody about this. If anyone was, I'm sorry that they were also. But all I want to say is just give this time. Anytime you do something new like this, there's questions, there's a lot of concerns, but I think just we give this time. I think the airport will improve. I think the fares will go down. I believe we'll attract more tourism. And I believe Sullivan County will be the winner ultimately in this because where's the airport at? It's in Sullivan County. And people are going to be coming here, spending money, staying in hotels, having meals, buying gas. So I believe ultimately Sullivan County will be the winner. And all I can say is just please be patient and give this time, and I believe it'll work out to our advantage.
That clears the board. Anyone have any other comments or announcements? We're still technically in announcements. Anyone have anything they wish to share? Commissioner Ward.
Man, this might be probably the best workshop that we've ever had. It's good to have everybody here and just discuss this. I agree with Mark Iverson. I agree with Zane. I see his point. I don't think there was any deception meant by this. I think we're looking out for the airport. I think Networks does a great job. I'm not sure they put enough emphasis on improving the airport. Because I'll be honest with you, I get tired of driving to Asheville to have to fly south somewhere. I'm one of those guys where I get tired of going to Knoxville to have to go to Mexico or south to bring a shipment back. But I'm just saying, I don't think there was any ill will here. But I think we do need to focus a little bit more on our airport to try to improve that. Because when those people come to Kingsport and they come to Bristol, which is inside Sullivan County, we all benefit from it. So, hotel, motel tax, it don't matter where they come, all those cities are inside the county, so.
Commissioner Akers.
Yeah, sorry, missed meeting, so I gotta talk about. Hearing Travis's voice there made me remind something. Because he was a big, the reason why we're able to do the new drop box at the fire station in Kingsport that we're working on. Huh? Oh, really? Well, Chattanooga celebrated theirs opportunity, and I think we shouldn't let that go away. They were able to do it, and it was a big to-do, and that was last month that Hamilton County and Chattanooga did one, and that is still something that we need to do, so. I'll be on the record, I didn't know that, I missed last month, and dang you, Dan.
Anyone else seek recognition?
Any motion they wish to make? Motion to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourn till Thursday next, say aye. Aye. And adjourn. Thursday next. Thank you.
Hey, he wears a body cam.